And so that's a very simple thing to do. We simply click on the correction icon, or we click on Control K to begin correction, which that tells us that we need to save. We click on OK.
What would happen if you jumped right when it started to go down?
So that was what would happen if you jumped.
What would happen if you jumped right when it started to go down?
Okay, so the word do, D-O, do, is actually correct because that's the sound that Michelle made. It's not a word she can remove because that is something she said. And so with the rules of correction being you can only add what you hear yourself say, she really can't make any corrections here because it's absolutely correct in reflecting what she said. So she's just going to hit page down and move to the next utterance.
Period.
And that's just a very small utterance. We're going to page down again.
Would the ceiling hit your head? Question mark. Ouch. Exclamation.
Okay, so will the ceiling hit your head?
Would the ceiling hit your head? Question mark. Ouch. Exclamation.
I think it's wood.
Would.
Would the ceiling hit your head? Question
Yes,
mark.
it
Ouch.
is wood.
Exclamation.
There you go. So page down again, and
Do you stay suspended in the air while the elevator plummets out? Do you stay suspended in the air while the elevator plummets out? Do you stay suspended in the air while the elevator plummets out?
there you go. So it's correct. So she's going to page down.
Let's examine.
I think that Michelle created a word there because she said let's examinate, and it wrote let's examine 8. So really, dragon is correct. So we're going to hit page down.
The elevator problem, one step at a time, period. First, comma.
Okay, now that is red. Michelle, would you tell us why it's red?
This utterance turned red because I have a real-time rule that says every time you see the word time with a period behind it, that it will always replace it with the word period, because time period is a common word group that's used. So if I go to edit in real-time rules, I will go to edit phrases, and here I have time period and replace it with time period. This is something that has come up multiple times, so I believe that I am going to delete this from my phrase replacements in real-time rules. I'm going to highlight it and delete the extra row and save this. Because I've seen this twice, I need to get rid of it, and that's what I'm doing.
Super.
And then, okay. So, and when you have an utterance in red, you cannot do correction on it. So you just have to move on.
Consider a scale. Period. You know, the kind that you weigh yourself on. Period. When you step on a scale to weigh yourself, comma, there are 2 forces involved. Period. 1, gravity pulls you down. Period. 2, the scale pushes you up. Period. What? Question mark. You didn't know a scale could push? Of course it can. If it didn't push up on you, you would go crashing through the floor. Go crashing through the floor.
Okay, in that situation, what can you say about that one, Michelle? What will you do? Because we heard you say go crashing through the floor. So it's not the word crossing.
But crashing is not a word.
Right.
It's poor enunciation on my part.
Right.
So I would add it to my handy dandy accuracy journal.
So let's have a look at that.
And I will do it should have been crashing, and it came up crossing. And I will make a note that I need to enunciate better.
There we go. Okay.
So I'm going to page down.
This upward push is called the normal force.
This is red, so I'm just going to move on past it.
Therefore, you're not accelerating, period. Newton's second law of motion, that force equals mass times acceleration, tells us that if the acceleration equals 0, the net force must equal 0, which means
Okay.
that force equals mass times acceleration tells us that if the acceleration equals 0, the net force must equal 0, which means
And I think I said equals. So I'm going
that
to add,
force
so I'm going to add an S to equals. Then I'm going to page down.
that the force of gravity pulling you down must be equal to the force of the scale pushing you up, period. Now let's suppose you're standing on that scale in an elevator, period. At first comma, the elevator is standing still, so you and the scale are standing still, period. The elevator is standing still, so you and the scale are standing still, period. The elevator is standing still, so you and the scale are standing still, period. The two forces on you are equal and opposite, period. You can read how hard the scale is pushing. You can read how hard the scale is pushing by looking at it, period. We call that your weight, period. By looking at it, period. We call that your weight, period.
Okay, beautiful. Now we're going to turn correction off. And we can do that by clicking on the little A with the pencil. And then we're going to go to Utterance Summary, which looks like a little bubble with a green table inside it. And it's always going to say, do you want to save your speech files? We're going to say no. And that opens up the Utterance Summary. And what the Utterance Summary is a listing of every one of the corrections that we've made. The original dictation, the original Dragon translation being on the left, and the corrected text being on the right. And then on the far right, there's a very small column. And the column is titled Apply. In the column, there is a box with a check mark in it. That means that if you click correct at the bottom of the screen, everything will be saved to the speech engine. Before we do that, we want to listen to our corrections one more time to make sure we didn't make mistakes. So we're going to highlight it, making sure the little black arrow is to the left of the utterance, and then we're going to click on play.
Would the ceiling hit your head? Question mark. Ouch. Exclamation.
And once that we know that one is correct, we'll go to the next one, hit play again.
Do you stay suspended in the air when the elevator plummets out?
Okay. And again.
That force equals mass times acceleration tells us that if the acceleration equals 0, the net force must equal 0, which means
The next one.
the elevator is standing still, so you and the scale are standing still, period.
Next one.
By looking at it, period. We call that your weight, period.
Okay, so in this instance, all of Michelle's corrections are perfect. So she is going to click on correct at the very bottom of that screen. And what that is going to do is it is going to push all of those corrections through to Dragon so that Dragon learns from what you've done. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to save the speech files? At which point we say yes. And you'll also notice, it's asking us again, we'll say yes again. You'll also notice that all of the text that was green after she corrected it is now cobalt blue. So we know that black text is original dictated text. Green text is corrected text. All of our green text has been pushed through to the engine so it could learn, and that text is now blue. The red text all involves either real-time rules or keyboard edits. Those do not get pushed through to the engine.
And I would like to add that if you change your style and your dictation text, those colors may vary,
That is true.
which is common in CART because of the dark background and the white, lighter text.
Okay, so now we can actually close the job and we're done.